salam sejahtera dan selamat pagi untuk semua. A very good morning. Yes. Selamat datang ke forum kita pagi ini, public lecture kita pada hari ini. Yes. Saya Dr. Yohan Kurniawan akan bertindak sebagai moderator anda untuk sesi perbincangan yang pastinya sangat menarik pagi ini dan membuka minda kita semua. Terima kasih juga kepada pihak USC, Ungku Aziz Center UM yang telah menganjurkan forum yang sangat penting ini. Forum kita pagi ini akan membawakan sebuah tajuk yang sangat relevan dengan kelestarian masa depan kita semua, iaitu Migrating from Linear to Circular dan Economic Hijrah. Jika selama ini kita terbiasa dengan gaya hidup yang linear, yang lurus saja, iaitu biasa kita beli, kita guna dan kemudian kita buang. Benda tu kan. Hari ini kita akan cuba bincangkan keperluan untuk melakukan satu hijrah ekonomi. Satu topik yang sangat menarik. Kita akan meneroka bagaimana peralihan kepada ekonomi kitaran atau circular economy mampu menyelamatkan bukan saja poket kita yang semasa ini makin terhad poket kita tetapi juga bumi yang kita diami ni. Jadi bagi mengupas topik yang penting ini, kita amat berbesar hati kerana dapat bersama-sama dengan kita pada forum pagi ini seorang tokoh pendidik dan praktisian yang sangat berpengalaman. Bersama kita pada hari ini Prof Dato Ahmad Ibrahim. Selamat pagi Prof. Pagi. Beliau merupakan Profesor Ejang di Ungku Aziz Center USC UM Universiti Malaya UM. Kepakaran dan pengalaman luas beliau pastinya akan memberikan kita suatu perspektif yang baru dan segar mengenai konsep hijrah dalam ekonomi moden ini. Jadi sebelum saya menyerahkan majlis ini kepada yang berbahagia Prof Dato saya ingin untuk mengingatkan para peserta forum pagi ini untuk pastikan bahawa mikrofon anda dihidupkan pada mode mute. Sepanjang perkongsian berlangsung, namun kami sangat mengalu-alukan interaksi anda semua nanti dalam Q&A. Dan jika ada sembarang soalan, sila type di ruang komen atau check box di Zoom ni. Kita akan bacakan soalan-soalan tersebut dalam sesi Q&A di penghujung program nanti. Dan tanpa melengahkan masa lagi, forum kita akan mulakan. Dengan segala hormatnya, saya ingin mempersilakan yang berbahagia Prof Dato Ahmad Ibrahim untuk menyampaikan perkongsian beliau. Prof, the virtual floor is yours. Dipersilakan, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Yohan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. You may be wondering why I chose the word Hijrah. Hijrah actually is an Arabic word which represents to migrate, to move, migrate. In fact, looking at ourselves, all of us are migrants. At one time or another, we have migrated. Because migration here is not just moving from one place to another place. Migration in thinking, migration in business model, migration in economic policy, and migration in jobs. So migration actually is a common thing. So my topic today is to talk about why the world has to migrate. The world has to migrate from a linear economy to a circular economy. Next slide, please. So, what are the greatest fears for the world? What are we all concerned about in this world today? Because if there are things that concern us, we have to take action. Next. Oh, yes. One of the big concerns for the world is the resource. We rely a lot on natural resource, materials to fuel our economy, our life, our living standard. So the resource of the world has been reported that we are in a state of decline. Next slide. In fact, if you look at the mathematics of the resource, it is catching up on us. According to this report from the UN Environmental Programme, which looks at the global resources in 2024, we, humanity, is consuming the earth resources at a rate that is not just unsustainable, it is in fact undermining our future. Our extraction of natural resources has tripled, going up from 30 to over 100 billion tons annually. So we are quite literally using up the planet. That's why people talk about if we are to have a comfortable life, we need another 2 planets. Next slide. And this crisis is not shared equally also. High-income countries, they consume 6 times more materials and generate 10 times more emission, climate impacts than their low-income counterparts. Our rich, affluent lifestyles are not the global standard, they are the global anomaly, a resource guzzling exception of the rich countries that is pushing the entire system of the planet to its breaking point. This is a big concern for the world. So this is not just an environmental issue, it's also a matter of justice. The prosperity of the few is built on the backs of many who will bear the brunt of the climate chaos and biodiversity loss. So it is a very unjust world now. Next slide. The extraction is actually the engine driving this crisis of the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. And resource extraction and the processing of resources are not just a piece of the puzzle, they are the cornerstone. They account for over 60% of global greenhouse gas emission. When we extract metals, we mine minerals, it involves a lot of consumption of energy. And since the energy that dominates the world is fossil energy, then the greenhouse gas emission is the outcome. So the way we produce our food, we build our cities, and fuel our economies is seen as broken. We have broken the system. Unless we address this concern, then we will be broken. Next slide. And this is not a problem of the very distant future. The UN projects that without dramatic system-wide change, our resource extraction could jump another 60% by 2060. And that would make a mockery of our climate goals. It would shatter the 1.5 degree target that we have set, we have agreed upon in the Paris Agreement. So, to put it bluntly, the current course is simply untenable, unsustainable. Next slide. But there is some glimmer of hope. if only we have the courage to take action. According to the report, this trajectory is not inevitable. If we can implement bold and changes in the policy, focusing on everything from how we design our cities, design our product, our mobility system, to what we eat and how we build, we can actually buck this trend. We can ban it, we can stop. Or focus on reducing consumption in high-income countries, for example, could slash resource use growth by a third and cut emissions, greenhouse gas emission, by over 80%, just by reducing the consumption of the rich countries. And still allow the economy, the global economy, to grow by 3% and improve the Human Development Index by 7%. This is the analysis by the UN report. Next slide. So we can choose a prosperous, equitable future that doesn't cost the earth. The science is already clear. The evidence are all there. It's been written in all the reports, the journals. Scientists have long shouted about this. And the window of action is closing. Unless we take action immediately, then the window is slowly closing. The question is no longer whether we could change, we should change, but whether we have the will to do so now. Political will, especially. Because our planet and the lives of billions of people around the world depend on us, depend on the answer, depend on the change that we need to embark on. Next slide. We've just discussed on the resource depletion, resource concern, depleting resource. The next big concern is, of course, the climate. I think everyone knows about this. The climate fear. The climate is a big factor that is going to change the world. Already we are feeling it. Some countries are seeing people dying from heat, in Europe especially. Next. It has been reported that the world is on track for its hottest year on record. And there is a 75% chance that average global warming across the next 5 years will exceed the limit, the threshold that we have set, 1.5 degrees. And now people are talking about the El Nino. In fact, the El Nino, in this part of the world, it brings dryness, drought, less rainfall, whereas in the South American area, it brings floods. So a powerful El Nino is expected, and this can threaten to push temperatures into higher levels. And yet something strange is happening. We are heating up, global warming, but some of us are tuning out. We have become skeptical of climate change. Some countries have become skeptical. Next. The proportion of people who believe individuals would be failing future generations by not acting against climate change has fallen. So less people now believe that we would be failing by a future generation by not acting, from 72% in 2021 to 61%. So many skeptics have become the norm now. Some of this may be attributed to the leadership of the world. The US especially have taken a big turnaround on their commitment to the climate treaty. In Switzerland, one of the world's fastest warming countries, only 50% now feel that moral obligations. So the rest don't feel the urgency. Climate change now ranks around number 11 among global public concern. Trailing, people are more concerned about inflation, about crime, about unemployment. And it has been reported that half of the respondents across 31 countries say government should prioritize low energy prices, even if it means increase in emissions. So this skepticism about climate change is rising. And this is a big concern for us all. Next slide. So this is a new climate fear. We have stopped believing we should try. 75% of people now say they feel the impact of climate change, and yet the desire to act has fallen over the same period. Across the developed world, the narrative has shifted from we must act now to what's the point. So again, a lot of skepticism. So the very urgency that was supposed to galvanize action has become a source of paralysis. This is worrying, very worrying. Next slide. Next. No, before. Okay, this one. But the deeper fear, the one policymakers and activists alike avoid, is about what decarbonization actually demands of us. So this is what policymakers want to avoid, that decarbonization we don't really understand. Every major net zero strategy assumes that economic growth can continue unabated while technology delivers decarbonization. So this is one of the assumptions. Yet, if you look at the evidence, it suggests otherwise. A study in 2023 found that at current decoupling rates, high-income countries would require over 220 years, is a projection, to reduce emission by 95%. And demand-side measures could deliver 40 to 70% of required reduction, but these remain politically sidelined. So political will is a major challenge. Next. So the uncomfortable truth is that decarbonization is not just a technological challenge, it is very much a political and an economic one. Unless there is political will, then it's very difficult for the world to address that challenge. And of course, political also look at the economic preference. Because if you want to achieve decarbonization, it requires asking people to consume less, travel differently, and pay more for energy. And it has been analyzed in 2026 with inflation squeezing household and geopolitical crisis driving oil prices higher. These are the questions voters do not want to hear. We just saw from the skirmish in the Strait of Hormuz how this is impacting the world. In fact, we have heard reports that many have gone back to coal for their electricity supply. Next slide. The consequences are visible everywhere. The consequences of all this change in belief, change in urgency. Malaysia has delayed its carbon tax, which is due this year, but because of the uncertainties in the Middle East, so our concern about supply of fuel, we have delayed the carbon tax. The EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, has also sparked accusation of green protectionism. So people are saying that by erecting this kind of tax system, it also shows clear protectionism measures by countries. The World Economic Forum reports that the global energy transition is fragmenting because of this geopolitics, the tension. Even the Maritime Organization has failed to adopt a net zero framework for shipping. Next slide. So the gap between ambition and execution has widened. The World Bank notes that while net zero pledges are rising, the main challenge is sustained implementation and measurable result. Developing countries face an annual adaptation funding gap of more than $310 billion. This figure actually dwarfs the 26 billion in the international funding that is for adaptation that is made available. So there's not enough money. Even pledges, earlier pledges of 100 billion a year by the developed economies have failed to materialize. Next. So this is not a call for despair, it is a call to be honest, for honesty. The climate movement spent years telling the public that disaster was imminent, and then wondering why people grew exhausted. Fear, turns out, is a poor long-term motivator. So people are not afraid when they don't see the future. What we need now is not more alarm, but more candor about the trade-offs we face. The public is not rejecting climate action. 59% across 31 countries still say their country should be doing more, but they are demanding their action be affordable, reliable, and fair. Next. The latest fear about climate change is not that we will fail to decarbonize, it is that we'll stop trying because we have even begun to have the honest conversation about what success actually costs. And the longer we delay, the more we feed the fatalism that is right now the greatest threat to our shared future. The longer we delay, the more vulnerable we are to the climate chaos. Next slide. So why I decided this hijrah? Hijrah, as I said, is to migrate from a situation, a difficult situation, to a more prosperous, safer situation. Because in Islam, we have the great Hijrah from Mecca to Medina during the Prophet's time, and that was to escape the threats that were imposed on Muslims, the Hajirin, from the threats that imposed by the communities in Mecca, so they had to migrate to a better place, a more peaceful place. in Medina. But of course, fortunately, the people in Medina, the Ansar, they were willing to accept the migrants, the Hajirin. So they were the migrants. But unfortunately, nowadays, we see a lot of protests against migrants. If you look at countries like the US, Australia, in fact, most countries in the world, they have to thank the migrants for their development. But now they're turning away migrants. In fact, I just gave a talk at one AGM last week. Many of our crops are migrants. Palm oil, rubber, they're all migrants. But see what these crops have done to the world, what they have contributed to the world. So migrants actually brings good things. So in this discussion on linear to circular, so I have taken this equivalent to migrate economically from the linear model. Linear model is where you take the materials and make your products, and then you end up with a lot of waste. To the new circular model, which involves regenerative to reduce and to reuse. And to actually, the circular model is to make sure that your products last as long as possible so that the pressure on new materials is reduced. So it requires a big mindset change, big compromise. That's why migration, because during the Hijrah, there were a lot of sacrifice by the people from Mecca moving, the Muslims, the followers of the Prophet, to move to Medina. A lot of sacrifice, they have to leave their wealth in Mecca. So similar thing, when you move from linear to circular, there is a lot of sacrifice, but sacrifice for a better future. Next slide. So if we look at we don't see the problem now. It's like an iceberg. We only see the top. There's a huge mess below that we need to see. So it's not a soft upgrade from linear to circular. There are sacrifices by business, by government, by public, but the message is urgent. It's inevitable for decarbonization and stability because our resources are depleting. You must remember that most of the resources that the world uses now are finite. They have their limits. We don't have an infinite source of materials, of mineral. They are finite. So we have to make sure through circular economy, we make in as much infinite as possible. That is the key message. Next slide. So Malaysia, we are moving into the circular economy, thankfully, but there are difficulties, there are challenges. Malaysia started with looking at how to manage the waste. That's why the first circular principle was adopted under the Ministry of Housing, which is responsible for the waste. And the next one was the policy was enacted under the Ministry of International Trade, which is looking at manufacturing circularity. But now, of course, the Ministry of Economy is in the process of putting some final touches to a framework for the nation, which covers all sectors, all aspects, all stakeholders. But we must remember that framework are just the beginning. It's the execution. The execution is where the real learning happens, where improvement can take place. So the framework are based on current assumptions, current knowledge. And as you know, knowledge changes. So monitoring is one of our difficulties in implementing policies. Next slide. So circular economy is beyond recycling. At the moment, people believe that, or they have the idea that when you talk about circular, is recycle plastics and recycle materials, is beyond recycling. Recycling is one of the features because we want the materials to be made available for use. So that's why the design has to change. Nowadays, because less attention is given to the design for circularity, we have difficulties recycling. I give you an example. If you talk about plastic bags, most plastic bags are made with different materials together, not a single polymer. To separate out the polymers is difficult. In some products, the way materials are glued together, this also presents difficulties in separating out for recycling. So these are features which involve attention to the design, and the design stage must look at if you want to go into circular economy. So they talk about this, the slope, the nursery slope, the beginning is to collect the waste bottles, disposed bottles. But the true rise, true ascent is the designing, redesign the production, the DNA of production. And also the use. People are talking about now we are buying, selling, and buying products. The circular model will move toward a different business agreement where it's more leasing rather than selling. So because of this new model, and you need to be more durable. Now, there is difficulty because the current business, they want more products to sell, make more money. So this is what in the car industry, we call it the theory of obsolescence. That means the car makers, they design the product, the cars, to make sure that they don't last very long. So people keep changing new cars, new fashion, new features. That is linear. And for companies, they generate more income. So this is a challenge, but is it sustainable? The question is sustainability. Let's say if we are now generating 4% growth, but 4% growth with the consumption, uncontrolled consumption of products or materials, then it's not sustainable. Eventually, it may drop to very low. So this is the essence of the argument why we need to move. So the government will have to make some policy compromises. One is to end subsidies. This is to stop because fossil fuel is one of the drivers of the emission. And of course, this is a politically sensitive area, but this has been done by many countries. If you go to Europe, they don't subsidize their fuel, they tax. If you want to bring in the carbon market, there's no way you can do it if your fuel is not taxed. So this is one of the, of course, Malaysia has moved in phases to phase out the blanket from direct subsidies to targeted subsidies. Then you can redirect the funds for infrastructure, for renewable material. And you need new regulations. You have to penalize wastage of materials. And you have to reward when you design for circularity, for easy disassembly. Of course, in the politics, for the politician, it's unpopular in the short term. But this is the only path to a sustainable energy food security. Next slide. Next. Next slide. And the public also has to shift. Consumers, they must become the steward of this issue. They have to move away from the throwaway culture, and they have to move to stewardship. That is circular economy. They must be active users of recycled material. So some of the rules of stewardship: buy less, but buy better. Repair instead of replacing. This again goes back to the design for repair, design for recycle, for reuse. So we must look at belongings as finite materials, not disposable commodities. So this is the consumption side. In fact, one of the biggest, most effective driver of this change is the government procurement, because the government is the biggest consumer of products. I just want to share an experience I had with one company in Malaysia which has developed a timber product from palm oil trunk. Palm oil trunk is now being neglected as a source of new material. But this company has problems selling this timber made from palm oil trunk in the country. In fact, the company has shown that it meets all the specification for fire resistant and all the other structural specs. Finally, he has found a buyer in Bangladesh. So, if the government, through the procurement for the many housing projects, can procure and give signals to the market that we need to support this renewable material, then this will help change the mindset of the industry towards circularity. Next slide. So we need to counter the critics, because the critics see that this will lead to degrowth, no growth, reduced growth. But we must remember, we're talking about sustained growth. So the growth has to be in a sustainable form, because it's no use having high growth now and eventually you have no growth. This is also bad. So we need to be reminded that we should not be sacrificing or burning the principle. The principle is the resources. The principle must be safeguarded so that we can enjoy the dividends over many years. So when you burn the principle, is equivalent what they call the sugar rush economy. So circular economy, we live on the dividend, the renewable flows. So this is there will be growth and more sustainable growth. Next slide. There are some warning from history. These are civilizations that fail to migrate, because the essence here is to migrate from linear to circular. There are many civilizations which has collapsed when their resource base collapsed. So this is talking about old civilization. They ran out of resources and they collapsed. Roman Empire, the Maya civilization, and the Easter Islanders. So this is again a demonstration of failure to heed the warning of the resource depletion. Next slide. So the solution, we need a lot of investment in innovation, because it's about change. How do you change the way you design? How do you change the way you make sure that your materials, your recycled materials, can meet the requirement of new products? How can you change the way you design so that your materials can be easily recovered? We have the technology, plastics, for example. There are now available technologies to make it from biological resource, bioplastics. Design, we have modular design is already a practice. And recycling, chemical recycling. So, but the technology alone is not enough, insufficient. It must be this collective courage to actually move the agenda, to migrate from linear to circular. Next slide. So it's a question of deciding to go with scarcity or security. It's not a choice between economy or environment. It's a choice of future being scarce if you stay with the linear, or a future which are secure in the supply of all the resources that we need. Remember, sustainability is to make sure that future generations enjoy the same resources that we have. So this called for massive migration of mindset and migration of belief. Next. So we need to build a new world. Let us not be the generation that clung to the old axis while the forest died. Let us be the generation that build the new world. And the Hijrah is there, and let us make the journey together. Next. Is that the end? Yes. Thank you very much. So that's the end of my presentation. Back to you, Dr. Yohan.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Bro Dato. Yes. Oke. Terima kasih banyak, Bro Dato. for his the very concise, yes, and insightful and mind opening shared our mind now, yes, sharing with the Prof Dato shared just now truly the extraordinary piece, yeah, of writing from the Prof Dato. Okay. Okay, from the forum this morning, yes, if there is one main thing we can take home today, it is the fact that this economic migration is no longer an option, but a necessity. Yes, the linear system we have been practicing for so long, like the take, make, and dispose, is no longer sustainable for the future. Yes, the Prof. Dato has explained very well that switching to a circular economy means that we extend the life of every resource we have. Okay, it is not just an effort to save the environment, but it is a smart economic strategy for individuals and businesses. Okay, the topic this morning is migration. Is the migration demands a mindset shift from all of us. It starts with small step at home. Yes, we can start with a small step at home, reducing waste, recycling, and supporting businesses that uh, value sustainability. As the saying goes, little by little, it become a mountain. Yes. Every small step counts toward a bigger change. Okay, May. But again, thank you so much, Prodato, for the very good sharing. And next, we will open with the Q&A. Okay, welcome for all participants who want to ask to Prof. Dato. You can direct the open mix or you can write in the chat box. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you. Yes,
I'm Dr. Zul from
yes, Dr. Zul.
yeah. Thank you very much, Dato, for your very what do you call that catchy and also appealing topic. Just like to know how you suggest that we have been about 30 or 40 years on linear and suddenly you want to change to circular, you know. What were the step that we want to do, at least from the academic perspective? Yeah, Dato, please.
What steps? You mean what steps you need to move from linear to
Yes, yeah, from the
circular?
academic, because some universities are not even teaching circular economy.
Oh,
So
yes.
how are we going to do it overnight?
Yes, that's very true. In fact, the business school, they have not really gone into this discussion, circular economy. This is Malaysia, but if you look at many of the countries around the world, the developed economies, they have actually started the necessary initiative to embrace circular. Uh, for example, Japan, Germany, even Singapore, because they realize that their dependence on the current supply of resources is not sustainable. Now we are 8 plus billion people and we are approaching 9, 10 billion. And the more the people, the more the resources that we need.
Yeah,
So, so the more the resources, it will come. In fact, now there has been report that copper, copper that is used in the
yeah.
electronics and in many electrical products is a very critical material in today's products. The world has been told that we are now short of copper. That means the demand for copper has outstripped the supply that we get fresh from the mines. So unless we look at new technology to recover some of the copper that is used in electronics, then we'll face problem unless we have a new alternative to copper. So there's of course another area of research. People are looking at alternatives to the current material, like rare earth, for example. Rare earth, many countries do not have rare earth and they're dependent on China, all this. There are research to look at alternative. That's happening. But the thing that we have to be aware of is that there are ways we can do through design and through the way that we do the business on the products, that we can lengthen the period of usefulness of the material. That's the main essence, to lengthen the period of the usefulness of the materials that we need. Because when you mine more material, you also emit more carbon. That's another story about climate.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, when you mine, you use a lot of energy, right?
Yes.
And new energy, and of course the energy, the dominant energy is oil and gas. So you get emission. So this is a concern actually. We are facing a situation, or we will face a situation of shortage of materials to continue with our present lifestyle. Yes, the universities must start looking at creating more awareness among the population, the students, about this fact, because we don't want to be caught unprepared. Even now, if you look at the problem in the Strait of Hormuz, the supply chain disruption is already creating concern. Not just food, but fertilizer, medicine. You know that Malaysia, we import 90% of our medicine. 90% of our medicine are imported. How do we address this? If let's say there is a disruption through some conflicts or whatever, what will happen? I have spoken to some people who made generic medicine. I asked him, where do you get your materials? All imported, 90%. So this is just one example of security of supply. So this one is looking at the future security of supply to fuel our livelihood.
Yeah, the simple example of waste management is also very obvious.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Waste management, let's see, if you are very good in your design, your circular economy, one of the objectives is to reduce the waste. The waste will be reduced because you can recycle, you can reuse. So the waste issue will be minimized. And of course, you design in such a way that the waste can also be recovered. So you are from where, Dr. Zul?
I am. UIA.
Huh?
I'm in the Mampan group lah.
Oh, Mapan Group. Oh, okay.
But I
Yes.
think I express concern that university should take it at a high level.
Oh, yes, true.
You
Yeah, the
just
education is one of the key game changer for the linear to secular. We have to educate the public, educate the consumers, create awareness, right? So there's a lot of steps we need, initiatives. Communication is one.
Okay, thank you, Dato.
Okay. Yeah. Any more question?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Zul. Dr. Zul, yes, any question? Yes. Please. Yeah.
No question. That means everyone is convinced that we need to migrate.
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody is questioning whether we need to migrate or not.
Yeah.
That is good
Okay.
news.
Assalamualaikum, Dato. I have a
Ah,
question.
yes,
My name
please.
Aziza from Faculty of Education. I just want to share a short story of mine. I vividly remember like 2 years ago when we were still in Germany, a migrant in Germany, we can call it.
Mm,
I was so shocked when my landlord woke me up at 12 a.m. in the morning
mm.
just to resort my garbage because I had thrown my trash into the wrong bin, instead of separating it according to the designated recycling system. I was like, come on, this is just a piece of paper. And she was like, no, this is wrong. This is
Yeah,
harsh. She
yeah.
said in German. So when I came back to my homeland,
Mm,
specifically in Kuala Lumpur, in Kedah, because I'm coming from Kedah, I
mm.
truly believe that we could do the same here. Me and my husband, we even talk about, starting our own recycling business. But
Yes.
the more I observe, the more I realize that the biggest challenge is not the recycling system itself, but I think
Mm.
maybe it's a little, sakit sikit lah. I think it's our people reaction, our habits, attitudes towards,
Yes.
recycling itself. So in your professional opinion, how can we start educating our people to make, like recycling a normal part of everyday life? I've been staying in
Mm.
Japan for 8 years, and when I came back, I was like, where should I throw this? We call it organic
Mm.
trash. I was like, it's so hard to find recycling bin. So it's not impossible, but then I believe we need to take some times and we should start now.
Yeah.
How to do that? Yeah, that's all from
Wow,
me.
that's a big
Prof.
question, how to do that. In fact, so you were in Germany? Which part of Germany?
I in Hessen, specifically in Frankfurt.
Oh,
I studied at
Frankfurt. Yeah,
University
yeah.
of Frankfurt.
Because
Yeah.
I used to actually represent the German Fraunhofer Institute
Ah,
in
so
Malaysia.
okay, yeah.
So I used to travel a lot to Germany. No,
Ah,
I mean, this is again a change of mindset. That's why I say migrate. Migration is not moving just physically, the mindset migration also. You see, the mindset is through education, because it's a cultural change. So the education must start from schools. It must start from school. Look at Japan. See, Japan, they, I mean, you can study how the Japanese, they sort out their rubbish. They're very particular about waste on the streets. They actually is a culture now. So that's why I actually and attracted to the view our Professor Ungku Aziz. One of the things he communicated is that Japan, they embrace modernity, but they don't leave their cultural heritage. They still have very strong attachment to their culture, although they can make modern cars and modern equipment, but their culture is intact. That is a challenge for us in Malaysia. So, and you talk about waste, it is also an Islamist calling. We are supposed to be clean. We are supposed to be not to pollute the environment. So this is a massive communication requirement. So this is what we call education for circularity. And this has to be addressed in the curriculum, as mentioned by Prof. Zol just now, even in universities. We have to start talking about it. We have to start training our young to recognize. And you must remember, investment now, mainly from many countries, the investment from the West is driven by the one of their key criteria is circularity, sustainability. They look at this when they want to invest. So if we are not doing this, we're going to lose on investment and market. I just spoken to you about the CBAM. Europe is especially very active in coming out with the necessary policy on circularity, on carbon market, on carbon tax. So if we are not careful, if we do not comply, then we have problem exporting to their nations. And remember, we are 34 million people. We depend on the trade. They export. That's why we see the Prime Minister going everywhere to make friends, to build relations. We need to have, but we need to conform to the demand of the world. We have to do that. Next, any more questions? That was very good sharing from the colleague from Kedah. Huh?
Thank you, Prof.
Yes. That's why we have actually among the people in the society, we have created a few platforms to create awareness. I'm actually involved with a program we call Friends of Sustainable Malaysia, an idea which was mooted by a former minister, Dato Sri Mustafa, and I work with him and also with our UCSI University and Mike. The chair is Tan Sri Zakri, a very prominent environmental steward. And we have been having conversation. We just want to have conversation, easy conversation, nothing technical, just to create awareness. And we need to have more of this. And of course, Prof. Zul, we have the other group, MAPAN, which is coming with a big summit, ESG summit coming. So these are all very good initiatives by civil society to create awareness. But at the end of the day, the government has to come in and change some aspects of our educational curriculum to imbibe this culture of circularity. Okay, any more questions?
Prof. Dato.
Yeah,
Prof. Dato.
Prof. Raymond, our
Thank
quantum
you for sharing.
man.
Yeah,
Hi.
thank you for sharing. So I'm thinking the business community, they have their main agenda is to make money. But we hope that we can have our the greater agenda is to make a more sustainable world to save the planet against this climate disaster. So this global, this more bigger aim, how do we realize that if can we need we may need the government to orchestra this initiative. If we let it go like business as usual, the business mainly they're thinking their priority is making money. So how do we get this agenda going?
Oh, thank you, Prof. Raymond. Prof. Raymond is my colleague in the Academy Science. We are fellows of the Academy. And in fact, it's a very good question, how to do this? Who is going to push for this? Definitely, it has to come from a few enabling institutions. Government, of course, is one, because it's a big change from a current way of doing business to a new way. It's a big change. So to me, the pressure, the enabling mechanism must come from the government with the necessary regulation, necessary procurement principles. And the other that is developing already is the market. The market is also a big pressure to change business around the world, to shift towards circularity. So unless there is a political will, unless there is a proper organization by the authority, then it's very difficult to migrate to the circular economy. So these are the what we call which will change the game. But ultimately, the business will be the one who has to change the game. The business will have to change the way they buy and sell products, the way they design products, the way they distribute products. So all this, the business will be but the enabling environment will have to come from the people in authority, of course, regulation, new rules. And this is happening mainly in some countries, Europe, Japan. Unfortunately, the US, which is, of course, we know is the biggest consumer of whatever materials, they are sort of not endorsing the government, the administration is not endorsing the climate issue. So this is a challenge. That's why I think civil society must not give up. We have to do whatever we need to do. We have to provide all the pressure on the various authority to change. So it's a big change, and change is not easy. Is that okay, Prof. Raymond?
Yeah, good sharing. Thank you, Dato.
Yes. Anybody else? There is one here. Mr. Nehan. I think you need to unmute your microphone is muted.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I'm Dr. Nihad from USIM University.
From USIM?
Yeah.
Oh, in Nilai?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want you to explain to me, is there any connection or relationship between sustainability and Islamic waqf in Islam? And what is the relationship between both? Or is, in other way, is waqf, is sustainability the other face of waqf?
Oh, waqaf, you mean?
Waqf.
Waqaf, huh? Oh, yes. What is sustainability? I mean, if you go back to the definition of sustainability, to make sure that whatever we have now, the resources, the climate, the conditions, will be kept for the future generation so that they have also the same. So Waqaf is where you declare your land or your property, right? That should be managed in such a way that it remains useful for future generation. So it's sustainability. That's one of the concept of sustainability in Islamic Waqaf, right? Yeah. If you look at one of the issue that has been raised you know that agriculture is renewable. We always can plant and produce, but there is a concern about the health of the soil. The soil health is now a big concern, whether it can support agriculture. So we talk about regenerative agriculture. It's another topic on circular economy. So it's to regenerate so that the service that is given to humanity will be extended for as infinite as possible. So any actions taken which make our resources as infinite as possible, then it is circular.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. There was somebody put up a hand just now. I don't know. Somebody put up their hand. So, Dr. Yohan?
Yes, yeah, Prof. Dato. Yes, very many questions. Yes,
Yeah,
because
it's good. We have this, very good question, very good points they have raised. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting topic. Okay, maybe Prof. Dato, before the close is our program, one question, Prof. Dato. Question. Okay, one question. This is about the many small businesses that worry that migrating to a circular economy is expensive usually. Is this
Expensive.
true? And how can they make the shift without high costs for that one? Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of, at the start, it's expensive.
Yes.
because of change, right? So this is where government has to come in and support. The government has to drive the change. And SMEs, they play a very critical role in our economy. More than 90% are SMEs. So if they require support, then the government has to come in with the necessary instruments of support.
Yeah.
But not for the forever. It's just to migrate, and once the situation is stable, then I think they can win off the support. I think this is for all. When we are changing, we all need this kind of support, and the government is us all. We contribute to the coffers of the government, so we can take the risk. The government can take the highest risk to help the SMEs, because if the SMEs are killed, the government will also suffer.
Yes.
So all these thoughts will have to come in. So that's why I say the government has a very important role to drive this. Unless the government is driving it, then it's very difficult. And when I say driving it, you can start with a framework, but don't expect a perfect framework. These are, as I say, a framework is based on current knowledge, current assumptions, and this change. Unless you execute, you implement, you monitor, you just follow the principle of Kaizen, the Japanese quality principle. You start with an action, you monitor, then you improve. Kaizen. So if we want to go for a really perfect framework, perfect policy, I think we're not doing justice.
I see. Yes. Yes, right. Thank you, Prof. Dato. Yes. Okay.
Maybe Dr. Yohan, you can propose some, because you are a psychologist, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What is a psychological approach to
I
change?
see. Yes. With
Yeah,
this
a
change.
study, this mindset.
Yes. Change the
Yes.
mindset. Yeah.
Mm.
But it is the very not easy, rather,
Not
to change the
easy,
mindset.
yeah.
Yes,
So
not easy.
psychologists must
Yes.
think
Yeah.
you need to do some study how to,
Yeah.
because it's a mental mindset change. So psychologists have a role. You need to come together and use your principles that you have learned.
Right.
And then psychologists can also contribute to this change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Prodato, for your suggestion. Yes, we thought we try to discuss with US. Yeah, that is
Mm.
yeah. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Any question last before we close the program this morning? Yes. Last any question? Mm-mm. Oh, no question.
The video later
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah. Come.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Prof. Zul.
Yeah, bro. Zul. Come.
You are muted, I think.
Oh yeah, Prof Zul. Yes. If any question, Prof Zul?
No. I just thinking about the video. We can share the video later, maybe.
Uh, Not just question, comments, or
Yeah.
views, improvement.
I think I agree with Dato that the government should come in, give the support. But
Yeah.
now they're already giving tax deduction and
Yeah.
incentives and things like that. But it must keep on be giving. Otherwise,
Yeah.
because the setup cost for circular is quite expensive.
And of course, when you talk about circular, it involves not just one ministry. It involves lots of ministries:
yes,
education, technology,
yes,
manufacturing, agriculture. So coordination is
very
inevitable.
important. Yes,
We
the
have to have very
ministries.
efficient coordination among ministries. That's why we have suggested that this be parked under the economy ministry,
Yes.
because it's all about the economy. The economy must drive it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for all question and yes. Thank you, Prof. Dato. Yes, maybe no question again. If still have the question, maybe can direct with the Prof. Dato after this. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for the all participants for this forum. But before we close this program, I back again to the Chi Nurul Ilma again. Yes, because we have the get the photography. I think. Yes. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
A few minutes. Yes, we back. Chi Ilma, maybe.
Ilma.
Okay,
Yes.
now
Oh,
says apa for
oh,
picture
okay,
session.
okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Everybody need to open their camera.
Yes. Please
Yes.
open
Please.
camera.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We ready? I will count 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
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 One more.
One more.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
Prof.
Bye.
Dato. Yes.
everyone.
Thank you all
Thank
participants.
you.
Yes. Thank you all. See you again.